This is number 3 in the first section, the displacement in one-dimensional motion on the first part of the fall performance final for honors. Number 3 starts off with you walk 10 meters east, 12 meters south, 4 meters west, 7 meters south. I want to know the resultant, which is your final displacement. Remember that has 2 parts, the magnitude, which is just how far you are from where you began, and then the direction, which is the angle that you would go to get to where you are now. So I've got 10 to the east, and then 12 to the south. You want it to generally be to scale. And then back 4 to the west, and then another 7 south. Remember, the resultant vector goes from the very, very beginning to the very, very end. So from here to here, make sure that you have arrows on everything in your drawing. This is R, that's what you're trying to find. To do that, we need to make a big triangle here with the R. You can either look at it conceptually, or we can set it up with a chart, which is what we did before. Just call these A, B, C, and D. And you're just going to add all the x's together by themselves and all the y's together by themselves. Make sure you have positives and negatives to denote direction. And then when you sum them all up, those are the x and y components of your resultant triangle. So this is 10x, 0 in the y. This one here is no in the x and minus 12 in the y. C is minus 4 because it's backwards in the x, none in the y, and D is none in the x and minus 7. So you add these up, and I get 6 and minus 19. These are the components for how far over and how far down that to make up your triangle. When you get to this point, I would suggest redrawing it. So I've got 6 and 19. And I'm going to need to solve for the magnitude portion, which is the how far from my beginning point to my end point, as well as the angle. And the angle always is inside your answer triangle and touching the starting point. Here's the equation for the magnitude. You don't have to use any negatives because it's really just a triangle and trig stuff. The negatives are important when you're adding them up. So I've got square root of 6 squared plus 19 squared. That's the how far I am. And then the angle, inverse tangent of opposite, and since my angle is always going to be touching the starting point, like that, the opposite is the 19, the adjacent is the 6. Make sure that you're in degrees, and that your answer kind of makes sense. See, I'm clearly not in degrees.